Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs, and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the pleasure to talk to Heidi Fishbein. Hello, Heidi. How are you doing?
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Heidi, we could try to introduce yourself and try to pretend we know everything about you, but I think you're the person who knows yourself much better than we do. So, who's Heidi? What she does in coaching? How did she got in coaching?
Yeah, I tried to succinctly put this into the best way, but I'm just going to say it. So, like you all heard, my name is Heidi. I am actually a certified ADHD and Christian life coach. I'm also a coach educator at the International ADHD Coach Training Center, where I truly get to live out my honest passion and my call in life by not just coaching with people one-on-one, but really training up and developing and empowering future coaches to go out and just make this huge ripple, this impact across the world. So my journey actually started by being referred to an ADHD life coach because my whole family has ADHD and things were pretty chaotic, lots of stuff going on. So I got referred to an ADHD coach, had never heard of it. But at that point, I'm like, I will do anything you put in front of me, I'm willing to try. So I remember starting the coaching and I bought about 12 sessions and I was probably on session 5 or 6. And I knew this is exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't even finish. In full honesty, I didn't even finish those sessions. I'm like, see you later. I'm going to coach training. And what I knew very early on was because of my faith as a Christian, I'm like, I really felt the call to combine the coaching, not just with the ADHD, but also my faith-based coaching as well. So of course, in true ADHD fashion, I did not take one and then the other. I took both at the same time. So the next day I went to church and I said to my pastor, I'm like, I really want to do this thing, Christian coaching. I don't know if we have it. He's like, actually, tomorrow we have this program starting. I came home and I told my husband, and I'm very impulsive. My husband is the calm, steady force in our home. So I had to do some convincing. And I convinced him that this is what I needed to do. Even though it started tomorrow, we'll figure all that out. I got to do this. So I jumped in 2 feet forward, not even really fully knowing, because I was only 5 sessions in, not even fully knowing what coaching was, but I was in. So started the Christian coach training. And then very shortly after, a few months in, I jumped into the ADHD coach training and just immersed myself and just the values and what we believe as coaches. It is just so in alignment with my heart and how I see people already. So it just was this perfect fit. And honestly, I've never looked back. It's just new doors keep opening. And I'm like, I'm going to step into it and see what happens.
Cool. So when did you start it? How long have you been in coaching?
So 2018 is when I started my training.
All right.
Yeah. So a few years now.
Few years. Okay, so I don't know if everybody knows, but I do have ADHD and I'm the only one. So imagine a whole family with ADHD. That must be, you said chaos, but how you deal with that?
Well, and that's just it. So one thing that we know about ADHD is there are some commonalities for sure and some symptoms that, a lot of people do experience, but then there's this uniqueness to it that I don't think a lot of people know about. So that was the biggest thing, was figuring out what does each person in the family need? What is their sensory profile? We also know that people with ADHD very often have co-occurring conditions. So what else is going on for the people in our home that they might need accommodation and support for? So it really was the coach training not only helped me communicate with my people, but also helped me understand ADHD and co-occurring conditions and what was actually happening in a lot of their experience.
Oh.
Well, it's probably one of my favorite things about coaching and being coach-like is that it's positioned as a profession and yet there's relevance everywhere. to be able to listen, to understand, to be able to look for the uniqueness in front of us and to connect with that person. It's not quite a professional question, but how has that impacted your relationships in the family?
Oh, so much. And I even talk with the coaches that I'm training that learning how to coach isn't just something that we turn off and on. And when I sit here and I joke because when I was a brand new coach, I used to have these glasses that actually didn't have lenses in them because I didn't want the glare, but I'd put them on and they were my coaching glasses, right? They were like a part of like my coaching attire or something. So when I'd put those on, I'm like, I'm in my coaching zone. But it's now when I look back on it, I'm like, but it isn't something that we just step in of and out of. It really becomes a part of who we are. And even when we look at our professional journey as a coach from ACC to MCC, that's what we're really seeing is the deepening of the partnership, but also the embodiment of coaching so that at MCC, we're like, see you later structure. Of course, I know what coaching is because we've done it enough and we've practiced it. So the coaching journey itself, watching coaches coming in, always thinking coaching is about telling someone what to do, always. And then that transformational journey, right, of realizing, wait, coaching isn't that? What is coaching? Yes, I love this. And then realizing that it is a way of communicating and it is something that improves our communication with everyone and changes the way we see people, changes the way we move through the world. I find it's given me so much patience and compassion to stop and just hold space for people to process and think and, just talk about what they want to talk about.
Holding space and being patient don't strike me as descriptors of someone with ADHD. Tell me more about that.
We're both laughing because we know.
I know, Erwin, right? It's like these are one of the muscles, Steve, that us ADHDers, we are just practicing flexing all the time. And it's interesting. I think if you ask some of my family members if I could be quiet for a 4-minute thinking, they'd be like, no, my mom can't do that. But it's interesting because when we're holding that space intentionally for another human, it is so easy. For some reason, it is so easy for me because my heart, it's what's in my heart. And it's not that I'm just being quiet, it's I'm being quiet so that they can be and they can take up the space, right? So I think it's knowing when and how to kind of do that because I talk a lot. Like I literally run 6 to 7 hour workshops and I talk the whole time, right? So in coaching, one of the feedback I often get is, wow, you can hold so much space. And I'm like, yes, tell my family, tell my people that I can do that, right? Because it's so amazing. But I think it's the intentionality of it being there. I know why I'm doing it and I see what it does for someone else.
It also comes when I see it. It's like be able to listen to people is like sometimes to tell myself I can quiet down. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but it's like it's not otherwise I was so active and you're going and just listening. So I don't know if you feel the same, we've seen the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And right. And it's listening with intention, generously listening to what someone is saying. And I often teach our coaches because it can be, like you're saying, Steve, it can be hard for a lot of coaches with ADHD to hold that space sometimes. So if you could see my office, I've got fidgets like everywhere and like things that I can do. Sometimes I like have to hold my mic because I'm bouncing my legs so fast. So there is things on the back end. I think that's why I like coaching on Zoom so much is because there is some pieces that I can do to accommodate my hyperactivity while I am partnering with someone. Taking notes is often a big one for me. I'll just take like little keywords just so that I'm tracking along in that conversation. So there is little strategies that I definitely implement while I'm coaching someone.
I love those. I mean, training coaches, this is one of the places that I see for everyone with a diagnosis, without a diagnosis, from anywhere around the world. It is that transition in many cases from, you shut up so I can tell you the answer, to being able to hold that space. And I love the words that you used, being intentional or purposeful, the practice that you spoke to. You're also alluding to strategies that help you stay present, which I think is probably the most difficult part. To be present is great, but then you go to level one, as we call it in CTI, or you get a distraction, or you've got how to self-manage and stay present in service of that human being that you're there with. It's
Mm.
also such a wonderful gift of coaching, if I'm honest.
Oh, there's actually a little piece of that. I think that sometimes when we're a new coach in training, we get so worried about the rules and the check boxes, and this is what I need to do. And the reality is, we're human. Whether you have ADHD or not, you are not going to sit in level 3 listening all of the time. There's going to be this fluctuation. I'm a visual person. So when your background's activated and you've got something new happening or a cat comes in, I'm like, oh, ooh, what's that? Right. And so we're going to get distracted. And one of the things I think is so freeing, and I don't know if we get there until we truly trust and believe in the coaching process and the partnership, but it's just the idea that we can be honest and say, hey, Steve, I totally just got distracted and I want to be here and hear what you just said. What was most important from what you just said, or something like that? Just to be honest, no one wants to sit across Zoom or in person from a coach who is perfect and has it all together. How much pressure is that? That's not what we want. We want to be across from someone who is authentic, who is real, who understands us, understands our, maybe what we're going through, and is authentic and vulnerable. When we are vulnerable, we open that space for our client then to also be vulnerable.
Would you trust a person that's 100% perfect? You don't. Because you
No.
think you as a human, you're not going to think like this. And that's the whole thing about empathy. That is so important. So someone feels that even that you could be on different levels, that as a coach you learn, and that's not only coaching, but in everything, that you learn to put you on the level of the other person, because at that moment you generate that empathy and that connection. They understand. I feel them. They're on the same level, even, and I think that is what you mean, being authentic, being there.
Yeah, it's about connectedness, right? Like we have our competencies and our ethics and we have our guidelines. And above all, it's about connection. It's about being with another person. And I think when we stay true to that, then it also helps us know our value as a coach as well. I think that that's where a lot of let me tell you my experience, let me tell you what you should do, comes from where we place our value as a coach with our client as well. And our value isn't in telling people what to do. It is in holding space so that they have the container, the conditions for them to actually pull out their authentic self and what is true for them.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because it's a question a lot of new coaches especially have or struggle with. Like, what does success look like? How do I be a great coach? So this question of I'll tweak it slightly, like what is the value that a coach brings to the coaching relationship and the client?
Yeah. I love this question. I feel like I could just talk about coaching all day. I don't know when we're going to end this call, but I'm ready for the next few hours, guys. So where is the value? Well, and I think our core competencies help us figure out what our client wants and what they need, right? So when we're establishing the agreement, this is why having a strong agreement is so important, because now I have the scaffolding to our conversation. Now I know where we need to go so that this person has the value that they want, right? And a part of that agreement setting is, what do you need? Right? What are you coming here today hoping to be different or hoping to take away? And we're going to narrow that down. So now that's kind of my little golden egg. That's the thing that I'm pulling everything through. That's my filter on how I'm asking this person questions. So I'm helping them get to exactly where they said or where they think they want to be. And again, that can shift and change. But my value as a coach is listening, creating a space so that they can sometimes even figure out what it is that they want. Because sometimes we start here, and once we just hold that space and be curious and ask evocative questions, then all of a sudden it's like, wasn't this, it's actually this. And it's like, ooh, okay, so what do we need to do now? Now that we know it's this thing, now where are we going? What are we doing? One of the things I think is really important, especially for new coaches, is we are not in a race or a rush to get to even where they said they wanted to go. Just slow it down, right? Which is super hard for us with our fast ADHD brains, but it's just having that patience and that trust that they're going to get to where they need to go, even if it isn't this thing. And with Facilitates Clients Growth, we have a beautiful opportunity and invitation to say, hey, client, now that we've explored all of this, I like to think of getting it all on the table. Now that we've put all this on the table, what are you learning about who you want to be or how you want to move through this situation? And we start kind of putting it all together. So my value isn't in driving or solving. My value is in trusting in the process and holding space for someone to actually see the things that are in their head, hear the things, experience them in a different way.
Don't you have sometimes, suddenly with ADHD, that you, when they're speaking with your clients and you're listening, and that your brain just goes boom, and you just feel like 100 million things going through? How have you learned to really, and Steve knows this, sometimes I just go shooting around with things, but how have you learned to be able to, because each coach, even if you're listening and we're not giving advice, a lot of clients come to us because they hope, that's their word, they hope that we have a certain solution that could help them. So how do you present or help them to give them some advice from based on your experience? For example, in ADHD, how do you integrate this?
I just took a lot of notes, Erwin. So let's see if I can put them all together. So first things first, it's how we set up our partnership. We need to know when we are meeting with someone and having whatever we call the first session, I call it a consultation, that this person is in fact ready and looking for coaching. And it isn't another modality of support that they're actually desiring. Because that's a common mistake that we can have as a coach. And I think it's because of we're wanting to earn money. Obviously, we're in business and we're working towards a credential. So we're willing to just coach anyone. And what can happen is we end up coaching someone who is actually needing training, needing other resources, needing a therapeutic model. And now we're working really, really hard and doing the best job that we can, but we're working with someone who doesn't quite not even understand coaching, because that's a part of our role, is to help educate on that, but it's something else that they're needing. Now, once we've set up that partnership and we're ready to move forward with this person, I think that it is so common that when we start a session, when I'm working with people with ADHD and I say, so Erwin, what did you bring to session today? And it is like, what didn't I bring to session today? Like, I am just info dumping the last, 7 days of my life, potentially maybe 5 years. And I'm just going to throw it all out. And they're going to say, did that make sense? Right? Or like, did you catch that? And what I've learned is I don't have to know. Right? So the biggest thing I always do, what is most important from what you're hearing yourself say? Right? I put it back on them, because one thing I've learned as a fellow verbal processor is I am getting there the more you let me talk. The more that you let me process, the more connections, the closer I'm getting to what I need. So as a coach, we can't possibly know, because if I start saying, oh, Steve, you said this and you mentioned this and you mentioned that and you mentioned this, I could be leaving things out. I could be forgetting things. I'm picking the things that I'm remembering or that stood out to me. And now I'm leading. So I have to open that. Like, hey, Steve, thank you so much for catching me up and sharing all of this with me. And what are you hearing is the most important thing for us to work on today? I don't have to know. They're going to know.
I really love the simplicity of that. It's one of my favorite things to teach coaches is when you find yourself giving an answer and you just demonstrated that, going, oh, let me find the connections between all of these and present it. That's an answer. when we find ourselves giving an answer, how do we give the question that we're trying to answer to the client?
Mm.
And let them do the thinking. And I think you demonstrated that beautifully, going, well, wow, with all of these things, what's most important? I don't have to work out what's most important. I want to know what's important. What's important feels important to know. So, hey, client, what's most important here? I think that's a brilliant example of a really masterful and yet super simple coaching.
Yeah.
Not easy,
Well,
but simple.
and that's what's interesting, right? Because I think as I advance, I'm right now doing a lot of training for my MCC. And what I'm learning is even though it looks like I'm doing less, I'm still working hard, but I'm putting the harder work on the thinker, on the client. It's their job to do the thinking because the reality is if I'm doing all of their thinking, I am robbing them of the opportunity to strengthen these muscles, to become creative problem solvers, to eventually go out and do this on their own. Coaching really is, I always say, we're coaching ourselves out of a job. Like we are not planning like, hey, Steve, you're signing up with me. We are doing this for like the next 5 years. Like we're in it for the long haul. Most partnerships, some are longer for sure, no doubt. But in most cases, we are coaching someone so that they're gaining these skills and these abilities to continue this work. Because one thing is true with ADHD, even if I gave you all the best systems, Erwin, and I'm like, Erwin, do this, it's going to fix everything. Guess what? Something's going to shift, something's going to change, and those systems are no longer exciting or novel,
Yeah.
and they're not new enough for you, so they're not going to work. So we're always kind of revisiting that, right? And going back to the drawing board. So that's why I think coaching is so important because we're coaching the human being, the whole person, not just their situation. We're coaching their relationship to the situation so that they can use that in all of their world.
I don't think, I just like challenge you a little bit. So we're coaching ourselves out of the job. I believe, and certainly if you look at a longer term relationship, it's shift from really coaching to where you become more a trust person to them so that they can come and I don't need coaching. I want to talk to you and I want you to activate my brain and you just ask the right question and say, oh, thank you. And they go and they're happy.
Absolutely. I think of kind of like a sounding board, almost like a thinking partner, really. So, one of the things I do in my coaching practice is I've simplified. I used to have all different packages, and now I'm like, you want to work with me? It's 4 months. We're going to do 4 months, once a week together. And then I have a package where it's twice a month. So they can go and it's just those twice a month check ins just to kind of keep up with those things and process through some of those new things that are coming up. I also have laser coaching sessions, which are 30 minutes. And those are great for people I've already partnered with because we can just hit the ground running. We know what we already have that trust and that safety that you're talking about. So we can just jump right in. So absolutely, absolutely. There's so much opportunity to stay connected with someone in different ways as they're changing. And I think also something to mention is even after someone ends 4 months, if they're like, if we've reached these goals, a part of our ethics calls us to recontract with that person. Now that we've reached these goals, if we're going to continue moving forward, now what are we working towards? Now that you're this, you've become this person, who are you becoming? What do you want to work towards now? So setting that up again.
And that's the connection that I want to make to a business model. So it's so important. Steve and myself, we talk a lot about this. Coaches need to be also the CEO or the business, the running their own business, and it is so important for one end to say, okay, I need to help the person, but you also have a business to run, and you need to make sure that uh, that you can continue being a coach for a long time. So how have you, because I have a certain feeling that you have that quite nice setup about the business, your coaching business. So how have you set this up and how do you run this for yourself?
Yeah. Well, as you were speaking, the thing I wrote down was entrepreneur and being a coach. I think one thing that coaches in training, and I think this because I was also this person, when I joined coach training, I was like, yes, I'm going to learn how to be a coach. Then I started realizing, wait a minute, I'm owning my own business and I'm also an entrepreneur. What? What just happened? Now I'm learning these two things side by side and they have to smash together and I've got to make this work. So I think it's so important. At the coach training center that I train at, we teach a lot of business building. So while the coaches are learning to coach, we're also teaching them right from the very beginning, how do we create a sustainable coaching practice and also market ourselves, have conversations? Where do we get clients? How do we get speaking gigs? How do we get on these webinars, the conferences? One of the things I always say, and I know that it's a saying from somewhere, and I should at some point check where, but you can't be a success and a secret at the same time. This is something I always say. If you want to be a successful coach, you have to be building your business. You have to be filling the pipeline. You have to be putting yourself out there. No one will find you. You can be the best coach in the world. I'm sorry to say, no one will find you if you're not willing to put yourself out there to be found, right? And a part of that is building this business. What does that look like? What are the pieces that I need to do? What do I need to be creating, right? To be able to do that. And very much we teach in kind of baby steps, right? Like what are some of the social platforms we should have? LinkedIn is a big one, for example, but just building different steps so that it's not they graduate and then they're like, what do I do? There's a huge percentage, unfortunately, I don't remember, I'm not good with numbers, but there's a really big percentage of coaches that don't make it past 5 years. And this is why, because they weren't trained and they don't know how to create a sustainable business.
And more important, it's not only about what you mentioned about all the marketing, it's all the rest, your admin, your finances, your goals, your own goals in your business, because this is so important as well.
Mm. Well, and there's, again, I'm like, I need to get better with numbers, guys, or stop citing them at least. But there's a huge percentage of time that we spend doing the back end, doing the admin, right? We think that we're going to have like, 20 clients and it's just one-to-one all day. And it's like, no, actually, right? There's a lot of setting up systems, automations, taxes, just a lot of the admin work as well.
Yeah, it's almost like many of us come into coaching kind of with a employee mindset. Hey, I'm an expert. I'll do my job. I'll just focus on it. And when you're an employee, the systems around you, as you're hired in, they give you the desk often and the chair and the computer and the keyboard and there's the systems and the payroll. And you're right, as an accidental entrepreneur, I'm like, well, to do that cool stuff, I got to build a system around me. And what do I learn? How do I get support? How does this work? How do I balance the stuff that I got to do with the stuff that I love to do and look after myself all the way through it?
Yeah. And I think this is especially important for the ADHD life coaches that I'm training because we do have a lot of trouble with, task initiation, prioritization, time blindness. There are a lot of symptoms that we experience that can really hold us back or create these barriers to us creating and being able to do the work that we love to do. So it's, a lot of great coaches have coaches themselves, right? To support them and help them move through building a business and moving through some of those barriers, the invisible ones and the big ones that are standing right in front of us so that we can have the opportunity to do this work that all of us coaches love so much.
And also looking for the right people that can do the stuff and take things off your back. So you could say, well, I can do admin, but if you can find someone and you pay a little bit, well, you've got more free time to do coaching. And but you have that admin person, you have your accountant, you have your marketing, whatever. It's like a business. You need to build a team around you that is going to support you.
Absolutely. Just because we can do these things doesn't mean we need to be doing all of the things, right? And pulling in help in those areas. Like for me, it's obviously numbers, right? Like I am not a numbers girl. So I need to pull in support for the numbers stuff. And I'm okay with that because while I have support in these areas, I get to step into the areas that I shine, that are in my strengths.
I find it paradoxically amusing that it's often these same messages that we're telling our clients. Don't do everything yourself. What's your zone of greatness? How do you focus? How do you delegate? And how do you get that off? And then suddenly we're doing the exact opposite. But I think that speaks to the point. We're human. And so are our clients. And so what our clients bring that we can serve them with are the same things that, well, we can use partnership on as well. I mean, there's so much magic when we start to create the synergy that emerges through partnership. And I think in many ways, coaching is very much focused on how do I, as a coach, build the synergy so that we can flourish in the context of coaching in service of the client and their agenda.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I think you said that so well. And I think, just the gift that, we have as coaches to partner with people as they take this courageous journey, and the learning that we get by watching our clients come up with these really cool ways of doing things that, even if I was telling you what to do, I would have never, ever thought of something that cool and that unique, right? So just being able to learn. And sometimes it's so cool when you're coaching someone and you're like, yeah, I'm struggling with that same thing. Yeah, I'm going to see what you're going to come up with here. Might even help me.
Help me out.
I take that. I'm going to put that on my action step tracker for this week too.
Exactly.
I love it. This is really cool. One question that comes out for me. So there's this emerging paradox of expertise that I'm seeing. People are positioning themselves as experts. As we niche, we also position ourselves around expertise. And expertise often, is the biggest barrier to learning. If we think we know, we can't learn. And yet there's this openness at coaching. So as I take this reflection to a question, what is the value that you bring as having ADHD, having studied and having expertise in the space of HD? What does that expertise bring, and how do you bring that into coaching while still being coach-like?
Ooh, this is the question, Steve. I love it. I think that what we're seeing with that expertise is that we are having two experts coming together. Our client is the expert in their life, right? Just like Erwin, when you opened up, you're like, we could try to introduce you, but you know yourself better than we do. So take the floor, right? So the same thing, our client is showing up with their expertise. And we're showing up, in my case, as an expert in ADHD, but also in coaching. And we're coming together in full partnership. Now, the way that I explain it, even to the students, because they're always like, Heidi, well, I'm learning all this stuff about ADHD. Why can't I tell them? Can I just give them this advice? And what we're doing with it, number one, when we're going through coach training, it's not just for what we're going to do with our clients. All that stuff in coach training is for us as well, so that we grow, we become more self-aware of our biases, of our lens, of our filter, of stepping outside of our little silo of this is my world. And when we think of ADHD, a part of our training is international. So our students, and I'm blessed to just have this opportunity all the time, to see ADHD from boots on the ground all over the world. What are people in the Philippines versus people, in Canada or the UK? What is happening when you have ADHD in these parts of the world, right? So what this does is it opens up our mindset to step outside of, I have ADHD and this experience that I have, everybody has, because that's not true, right? So a part of the training in any specialty is recognizing that it is beyond our experience. And the more we know about it, I think you're right. Sometimes, Steve, it can bring us to leading in some sense, but it also helps us understand that my experience isn't the only experience. So it helps, I say, inform our curiosity. It helps us listen a little bit different. When we're informed on something, we might hear just that little something that someone who knows nothing about ADHD would just assume or chalk up to something else. we're listening a little bit different. Our questions are going to be informed by understanding the neurobiology of the ADHD brain, the common challenges, which will help us ask different questions.
I love it. Two things showed up, and it was really cool because as I wrote them, you kind of said them. So my ego kind of loved that. One, one was the answer versus my answer. And I think as we give advice, as we give people, we might give them an answer, but it's not their answer. And I think that ownership transforms everything. The second thing I wrote down was like knowing where to look. And the metaphor for me, I teach scuba diving and I've taken people on diving, trips. I've been to the place, I have expertise on the dive site. Doesn't mean I know what's going to happen on that day. I know where the eel is likely to be, or where the crabs or the octopus or where the stingrays are likely to be. I know where to look. So I can use that expertise to guide my own curiosity. And I think that's what I heard. It's not a me, let's go here and I'm leading the conversation, but it's the guided curiosity, I think is the phrase that stands for me. Yeah. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I might have to take that metaphor, Steve, although I've never really been diving, but I feel like it's such a great metaphor to put that visualization around having that expertise. Because I think that is such a big question that our students always bring. It's like, but wait, when and how can I share this? And one of the things, I mean, and it's not like we have this information and I'm like, Steve, I'm just going to sit here and watch you struggle and I'm not going to, tell you anything or do anything, right? That's not the mentality of it,
I've seen that.
right?
I've done that.
Well, and intentionally, right? And holding that space for someone to feel that a little bit, because there's also that thinking, if I just hand everything to you, you've not worked for it, right? So it doesn't have the same kind of value. So we want to hold that space. And there's a lot of coaching skills that we're going to use before we would just like sprinkle and just a little something. And when we're sprinkling it in, it's not to show that, hey, look, I'm an expert. Look at all the stuff I know about ADHD. It's actually from the heart set of saying, I'm just going to throw this out so that we can break open your thinking a little bit more. And I encourage coaches not to do that until you're in the understanding of how and why we do that, right? Because if we just start doing that, then we can get in the habit of doing that. But it is in service of the client and their process and helping them gain new awareness, not to show our value or what we know and our expertise.
It's like, what came up into my mind about a metaphor. It's like you sometimes give the seed because you see the client, they're stuck and you need to give them something. So I think this is maybe some say, hey, these are different. I've got 3 different seeds. Have a look which one would fit. And if you think that's a good one, let's build. You plant it and let's build it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And even encouraging them, what would it be like to just guess, right? If we just played with this and took away all the barriers, what is the wildest thing you could do? And just getting 1 or 2 ideas on the table and then throwing one in for them. How does that come into the mix? Right? So there's ways to encourage thinking. People aren't used to doing this much work in thinking, right? So I've had so many clients say, well, Heidi, what would you do? Right? And one of the things I always say is like, Steve, I would love to tell you what I do, but one thing I know is it might not work for you. So I'm wondering, would you be willing to just explore a little bit further about what might work for you? And then just acknowledging it, not saying, you know what, that's not my job as a coach. I cannot tell you that, but just saying like, hey, I hear you. I acknowledge that. And I'm wondering, do you want to try something different? Because Google can probably tell you what you're asking me right now, right? Let's try something different.
Absolutely. I'm seeing that this whole concept of a thinking partner to me is emerging more and more, especially in this world of AI. I saw an article the other day where intelligence scores seem to be decreasing, and more people are using AI because I think we're outsourcing the thinking component. Let's get ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever the platform is. Ask it the question, it does the thinking, I come back. I can ask it questions to evolve its thinking, but now it's done all the thinking, and this product that I've created that I now have that I don't have any intimacy with because I haven't built
Done the
it.
thinking.
And yet I can see AI coach tools doing a similar thing. People coming up and going, hey, AI Heidi, what would you do in this situation? And the AI ends up giving an answer that's advisory. And we miss out this opportunity to develop the thinking skills, connect to humanity, experience the synergy that emerges from this partnership, to be present with the unknown and uncertain as we struggle, and it often is a struggle to find our own answers. And I think that's the magic that gets lost too often.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And I see more and more. I work a lot with startups as well, and I see they're thinking like this. And our work as a coach as well is to break this open by asking the question. And that's why I sometimes say, listen, I've seen this in this industry. What do you think about this idea? You see them now going, mind breaking open, and think, what the hell? I didn't never thought about this myself. Listen, and that's it. That's the paradox. What we're talking about, niche specifically, but is also learning to be able to open so that you can get things and learn from other parts. That's the whole thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think the word choice came up as you were speaking. We kind of, and this is why coaching is so great, because it takes us outside of our current way of thinking, right? Even in 15, 20 minutes, right? I was in a coaching demo for 20 minutes, and I'm pretty sure like 12 minutes in, I'm like, I got this. Like, I know exactly, it's so clear what has just gotten me stuck, right? So we get so, like you said, with the blinders, and coaching really is like, what if we stood up here and like looked down? What might we see here? And it just opens up the choice instead of that automatic thinking. Like our brain will continue down the same neural pathway that it has been doing forever because it wants to keep us safe, and it will take the path of least resistance. Thinking about things, seeing them differently is going to get that brain going and start to create new opportunities. And that's really how coaching works. It's not a strategy or a tool. If there's no new awareness, I had it explained to me the other day as I was doing a coach mentoring session, and the mentor coach said to me, Heidi, it's kind of like you and the client just rearranged the furniture in the room. There's actually like no new furniture there. And I'm like, it's true. They actually came up with really the same thing that they were doing. They just flipped it a little bit, right? Whereas in coaching, to be really successful, we want to have new thinking, new awareness that will help them move forward. So now I always think of that room. I'm like, what new piece of furniture do we need to put in here to help kind of get that forward movement?
Love it. I love it. Well, Heidi, as you alluded to at the beginning, we could definitely be talking for hours, and maybe we schedule that for a different day. But for those that do want to continue the conversation and learn more about what you've been sharing and your view on coaching, the business and the world, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so a few ways. So lifecoachheidi.com is my personal website. The training school I work at is the International ADHD Coach Training Center. So that's the iaccenter.com. I also have my LinkedIn, my Facebook, all of that is just my name, Heidi Fishbein. So that's really kind of the main ways that people can connect.
All right. Thank you very much, Heidi, for this entertaining chat that we have, because it was really, we've been covering a lot of things, jumping around left and right, like we do ADHD. We just jump around.
I know. This is totally normal for me and you, Erwin.
Exactly. And Steve goes, oh, where are you going? So thank you very much, Heidi, and everybody else. Thank you for listening in. And until next time, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.